kick us off as well. So I'll just hop right live stream continued. And then I'll tag it in the playback as part 2. So with that being said, I do want to get on here in the coming week and talk about Saturn retrograde. Now, it does happen about once a year. Saturn moves a lot slower than the Earth around the sun, so it's something we're used to. But of course, there's different themes. The last one we were dealing with Venus. This one we're dealing with a square Jupiter right now as of August 19th, as Mercury is going direct. So we definitely need to get on and talk about that in the coming week. I'm also going to be bringing back tarot readings. I know one of you, quite a few of you subscribed when I was doing the tarot readings, and one of you had popped on the live stream last time. It's already been 2 weeks, and said, aren't you doing tarot readings? So yes, I'm getting set up to start doing all 12 sign tarot readings again. But with that being said, today we're going to just Bennifer, Lopez, and Ben Affleck are splitting up. And if you watched the part 1 that I did their synastry, then you will be like, wait, but you said they weren't, right? Because I called Kanye and Kim, I called Megan Fox and MGK, but I thought that Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck might surprise us. But I'm going to kind of go into why maybe it didn't work today and kind of follow up. Now, I am pretty more thorough than I usually think that I am, so I may have already touched on this aha moment I had last night in the previous video. It's like I read stuff I wrote 15 years ago and I'm like, oh, I already knew all that, and I think like I learned it over the years. So with that being said, I may have touched on what I figured out last night. I was kind of explaining it to my boyfriend. I'm like, okay, well, they have their suns in the same sign and their moons in the same sign, but they're at, opposite ends of the, it's 30 degrees per sign. So one of them's low degree and one of them's high degree, which would be, I'm sitting here, just yammering away like that would be a 20-degree orb that they're, so if their suns are both in Leo, let me just really quick so I can just say it accurately. Ben's sun is 22 degrees Leo, and I believe Jennifer's is like, I have them both right here. We're going to pull them up. I wasn't going to get to it yet, but we'll just jump right into it. Her sun is 1 degree Leo. Yes, I was thinking it was like 0 to 5, but so her birthday is July 24th. Her sun is 1 degree Leo. His is 22 degrees Leo. Now, what we call an orb, a lot of you are probably familiar with. And so if you don't know, I'll just quickly tell you. So each sign has 30 degrees in it because we're dealing with a circle, and there's 360 degrees because there's 12 signs. Anyways, that went over your head. It's okay. You'll get it later. But what I'm saying is that when we're doing orbs in astrology, most astrologists have their own opinions about it and they see their own observations. So I don't want to make this a whole video about orbs, but generally a 5-degree orb is sort of the like agreed upon amount for most aspects. So if there's 30 degrees in each sign, then and we're dealing with the same sign, then a 5-degree orb would be like Jennifer Lopez's sun is 1-degree orb, or not 1 degrees. So any sun that's landing within 5 degrees of hers, even if it's back in Virgo, which would be called an out of sign conjunction, is called a conjunction, and it would be within a 5-degree orb. If somebody's sun is like 3 degrees Leo because they're born like July 26th, then they're gonna have this tight orb with J-Lo's sun, and they're gonna really like each other, probably, at least on the personality level. So I always, you guys will ask me, well, what about orbs? And I always say friendly signs trumps orbs. So I'll say like it's better to have somebody have, and this is just basically dealing with the sun, but this can happen with all the planets. Like it could be sun to Pluto, where there's a conjunction happening between two people, like one person's sun is sitting near another's Pluto or something like that. But with that being said, you guys will ask me like, well, what about the orb? What about the orb? A lot of times in the comments, at least. And I'm like, okay, well, I think friendly signs trumps orbs, right? So if you have 2 planets in the sign of Leo, that's going to be better than even, and I've said this before, and this is where I'm going to retract a little bit. And this is what I was telling him last night when I came across what I want to tell you guys today, which I may have or may not mentioned before. But, now backtrack. I always say like it's better to have a friendly sign like Leo be 20 degrees apart than to have a 5-degree trine between Leo and Aries. All right. But Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck may have kind of just been some evidence against that theory, because I'm a little not hard in that theory. That's just sort of, if somebody asks me, I'm going to default to, I think friendly signs trumps everything. And it does to a certain degree, because when we're dealing with the sun, to a certain degree, no pun intended, when we're dealing with the sun and the luminaries, a lot of software, we put the orb out because the sun, is our life force. So it's got a bigger magnetic field. All the planets gravitate around the sun. So the sun can be felt at a wider orb. So instead of that 5 degrees, we usually generally, like on our software, I think we do it out 10 degrees, because you kind of have to do the sun and moon together. But after you get about 5 degrees out, it's called the moiety of the moon or the sun in Vedic astrology, is what I like to revert to, but it'd still be an orb. So they say the moiety of the moon is about 10 to 15 degrees. That's its reach. And that would be the orb of the moon. So even though if you have like Mars to Mars, it's going to be about a hard, fast 5 degrees. Anything, if somebody's Mars is trining someone's Mars at 7 degrees, it's still going to be easier to deal with than like a Mars square, but it's not going to be the same kind of like connection that two people whose Mars are 3 degrees apart in a trine are going to feel. Like they're going to feel like, I cannot stay away from you. But if it's 7 degrees, it's going to be like, I really like kicking it with you, So with the sun and the moon, though, it's the moon is 10 degrees and the sun is 20 degrees, they say. But in J-Lo and Ben's case, their suns are 21 degrees. So this is where it's like, is it friendly sign, or is that orb and moiety, is that really important, And so I'm going to say that yes, if you're dealing with the sun, especially, if it's like a sun to another planet, it's still probably going to be tighter than 20 degrees, right? Because if Mars is sort of reaches 5 degrees and the sun's is 20, then I'd kind of divide that and go, okay, sun to Mars is probably going to be, you're going to feel it like 10 degrees or less. But if it's sun to sun, they have a 20-degree reach. So that's the kind of the issue here with Bennifer and Ben, is their suns are right outside that 20-degree reach, even though they're in friendly signs. But I still, and I always say the suns don't really matter as much. That's sort of icing on the cake if you have friendly sun signs in a romantic relationship. But then the next thing that we look at is the moons. Now the moon, again, has about a 10-degree moiety, which is still a much further reach. These are called the luminaries, the sun and the moon, right? They're not actually planets. They're like bright lights, right, in the sky. They're luminaries. So, light reaches further, right? Then the planet's gravitational pulls only reaches so far. If that makes sense, sort of just energetically speaking. We could probably break it down into math, but we're not going to get that advanced in this video. So when we go to the moon, we have Bennifer's moon at 29 degrees Scorpio, and we have Ben's moon at 4 degrees Scorpio. So this is 25 degrees for their moon's orb, right? And I told you the moon's only about 10. I've read sometimes 11 or 12. I would say 10 to 15. I dealt with someone where our moons were in a conjunction right outside of like a 10 to 11 degrees. And I feel like if it would have been a little tighter, it would have been, it was really great, but I think if it would have been a little tighter, it might have been a little more solidifying or cementing to the connection. So with, we might have like had obviously a stronger connection the tighter the orb. So I told you guys when we did their first video, like friendly signs trumps everything. I'm going to kind of go, okay, the sun and the moon still have way wider orbs than the other planets. So, but once you're getting outside of 20 degrees on the sun and 10 degrees on the moon, the odds of success or the amount of money that I'm going to bet on it are going to diminish drastically. So depending on what's holding them together right now. I did mention in the first one that got cut off right now, they did have Jupiter square Jupiter, and I mentioned that in the first video, and this is why they came together later in life. So if you ever see that, you can check out your synastry with anyone you want at divinetimingdatabase.com/stars. The links are all below. If you don't have the birthplace and time, you can still see, like, do we have Jupiter square Jupiter, etc. But if you see that with someone, then sometimes there has to be other marriages first. You can check out the first Ben and Jen video. It's in the Celebrity Synastry live stream if you want to hear more about that. Now, here last night, as I'm going over this with my boyfriend, I'm like, okay, so I guess, moiety and orb is going to trump you know, friendly signs, even though I really thought Ben and Jennifer could make it, da 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 da. So, and then I'm telling him this, and like I said, I'm so thorough sometimes that I may have touched on this in the first video, but I just think that this is kind of important to bring up at this time while she's filed the divorce papers. I'm going, okay, so his son's probably high degree, low, hers is Leo, and I'm remembering that they're flipped. I'm remembering that his sun was high degree Leo and his moon was low degree Scorpio, and that hers was low degree Leo and his is vice versa. And then I'm realizing this Scorpio and Leo are squared signs. So his sun is squaring her moon and her moon is squaring his sun, which isn't really the most comfortable energy. Um, and I think that ultimately, you know, I don't see necessarily sun moon squares break people up, but my first school of thought was sun to moon was the most important, especially in our younger relationships like puppy love. We're going to have sun trine moon with people a lot. But I always tell you guys at the end of the day, it's going to matter more how the moons are interacting with each other than how the suns are interacting with each other, or even how the sun is interacting to the moon. But generally we're going to be drawn to people that we have sun moon compatibility with earlier in life. And of course, if you have sun to moon compatibility and then your moons are compatible, those are going to be the best kind of relationships that we can have. But with his sun being square her moon, you know, the sun is our life force, it's our personality. So, you know, it's who we are. And then our moon is our emotion. So if somebody's sun is squaring your moon, you're going to feel a strong connection to them. But they're like, the moon's going to hurt the sun person's ego, and the sun person is going to hurt the moon person's feelings a lot. So, you know, that's where this can be agitating. And I honestly think now, looking back, I'm going to have to retract a little bit and say I didn't think they'd get divorced, because usually when the moons are in a friendly sign and there's no malefic deal breaker or divorce aspects. Now, sometimes when I look again, I'm like, well, oh, there was that one there that I kind of brushed over. But I don't think so. I think really the only challenging aspect they really had, aside from those sun moon squares, would be Jupiter square Jupiter. So I did really think they had a chance. I'm going to say if their suns were within 20 degrees instead of being 21 degrees, and their moons were within like 12 degrees or less rather than 25 degrees apart, I do think they could have made it, or if it wasn't lining up like in exact squares. So yeah, friendly signs doesn't trump the moiety and orbs of the luminaries or the planets. It's good to know, right? So if you have something going on with, like, what would it be? What would it be, like a trine or conjunction? Like if you have Mars trine Pluto, but it's, or Sun trine Pluto. See, it's only going to show you most of the time in software if it's over 5 degrees with the sun and the moon, but if you have like Sun trine Pluto 6 degrees, or I want to say Mars again, Mars trine Pluto within a 6 degree or more orb, it's going to still be a great physical attraction, but it's not going to be as solidifying or strong as under a 5 degree orb, right? Even if these are friendly signs like Aries and Leo, for example. So basically, moon conjunctions outside of 10 degrees, like I just said, sometimes it's not going to hold a couple together, even though it's a friendly sign. Even though I say like friendly signs would overrule a trine, I think a 5 degree trine is going to be better than a 20 degree moon conjunction in the same sign. So that was sort of a little caveat there, because those are like the things where I'm looking at it and I'm like, I have to make a call, you know. And so I say, you know, okay, if your moons are within a 5 degree orb and you get together and you live together, you're probably going to stay together in the same sign. Out of sign 5 degree orb, that's a lot trickier too. So this is just the type of scenario where I'm going to go, okay, well, Ben and Jen got divorced. So when I'm helping a client, I'm going to go, you know, you two have this great moon conjunction, but it's 25 degrees apart. So it might be sort of like close but no cigar kind of scenario. Like it's close and you feel the similarity and the affinity in the moons, you really get each other, but it's not enough glue to hold you together as it would be if it was within 10 degrees. It's not going to overcome other challenges as if it was in 10 degrees. And my school of thought was like, if a couple again has friendly moon signs and no malefic deal breaker divorce aspects, that they won't divorce, especially if they legalize the marriage. But the issue is when those two people's sons, and it's Leo and it's dealing with healthy ego, and they are very famous people with very big egos, is trining each other's moon, you know, I still have some hope that they'll pull through based on the astrology. But like I said, if these were tighter orbs, I definitely, brought them together twice in life. So they definitely feel it for each other. It just may not be close enough to hold them together. So now we know when we see something and we're like, okay, that sun square moon is going to feel rougher and ultimately break them up, even though sun square moon is not a divorce aspect, because these orbs aren't tight enough. So we definitely, I personally at least, and you guys learn with me, learned something through this Jen Bennifer divorce. We learned that friendly signs is not going to overpower moiety and degree. All right, that's basically what I want to say about them, but I will hop on. I see you guys kind of popping in and out. I know it's earlier than I usually get on. I will hop on next week so we can discuss Saturn retrograde a little bit more, and I want to get back into doing tarot readings. So if you want a personal reading from me, you can go to rotation411.com. If you're looking for your own perfect astrological match that you wouldn't be matched with unless those moons are in harmony, go to divine-timing-database.org and you can enter the database. It's and there's so many people in there now. There's a lot of people meeting. It's buzzing. It's been phenomenal to watch. I cannot wait to hear how people have stayed together over the years. I'm really excited for that. So definitely check it out. I'm sending you all lots of love, blessings, and light. Thank you. And oh yeah, like and subscribe if you get around to it and you thought this was informative. Bye-bye.